Salutations, fellow idiots. Welcome back to yet another episode of that Full Moon Live, baby. We are joined once again by my boy Ryan, the crazy Canuck himself. We are going to be covering Crash and Burn today. And since our last discussion, Crash and Burned, I'm sure some of you guys remember that. At least 17 of you tuned into that fucking train wreck. Hopefully, we know today is going to go much better, but this is kind of a little bit of a makeup work here. And hopefully this hasn't discouraged you from coming back on for more of these, bud, because there's going to be lots of these going down in the future. Today is Ryan's selection. He chose Crash and Burn. I think this might have been one of the earliest films that we ever sort of bonded over, long before we'd ever spoke in person. I feel like I posted about it in the Dead and Lovely group, and you either watched it or had already seen it, and you were like, yo, that movie rules. And that, is it fair to say this might have been, sort of the seed that led to our friendship in a way, or at least the Full Moon movies in general?
I think I agree with that. I had a couple nights to myself. I was working on the road and I was just pulled over. I had a hotspot on my phone and watched a couple of flicks, and one of them was Crash and Burn. I found it on the Tubi channel. I was like, man, I haven't seen Crash and Burn forever. So I went on the DNL group after that and just did up one of my little quick write-ups about how much I love this movie. And I think I got a couple of likes, and one person commented on it that they'd seen it, and that was you.
Fuck yeah, dude. And it's a solid film. I think that it's one of the best examples of a Full Moon film that could appeal to a wide range of people that aren't even necessarily Full Moon fans. But at the same time, it's like quintessential Full Moon shit in hindsight, Speaking of his write-ups, if you guys, feel so inclined to join like the Dead and Lovely horror group or the Hamityville horror podcast group or the Scream Until You Like It group on Facebook, Ryan does the best, like, sort of random stream of consciousness fucking movie reviews, play-by-play style, but in text form. It's the best shit that I've maybe ever read in horror groups. They're the best, dude. So don't ever stop. So we're going to dive into our first impressions of this film, obviously. We're going to show you a little trailer first. We've got lots to say about this, I'm sure, because this is a film that is just good for discussion points. It's got a lot going for it in a tight, sort of compact package. Do you remember the runtime of this? Isn't it one of those Full Moon movies that's like barely over an hour?
Sorry, you broke up there really quick. Were you asking me about the runtime?
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's not. I think this one's just over an hour and a half, isn't it? It's not Charlie Van's usual get her done in an hour 20 kind of scenario.
Oh, no, 85 minutes. 85 minutes.
Only 85. Okay.
Yeah. For some reason, I thought that it was even shorter, but that's just a testament to how rad Crash and Burn is and how it really sort of manages to be a slow burn film, but that one that trucks along at the same time because there's lots of interspersed bits of spookiness and action, I suppose you could say. So yeah, let's run that trailer real quick, my boy, and then we will jump into those first impressions.
In the year 2035, a corporate power will rule our nation with terror. Using a secret army of synthetic humans, they will destroy all who oppose them. But a small outpost of rebels will fight their killing machines. By reviving a weapon from their past, they will wage the final battle for our future. Crash and Burn. Now available on video cassette.
All right. So there's the trailer for it. Do not let looks deceive you. They sell this as a giant robot film very heavily, I think, and a lot of the ad work and the poster art and stuff like that. But that's not the case here. There is a giant robot, and you probably saw most of the footage right there. What was this your first time? Obviously not your first time watching it. We basically said that. I asked that out of habit. Clearly you'd seen this film before. Do you remember what your initial thoughts were when you saw it, and what are your general thoughts on it now?
So initially, this was a rental when I was a kid. I was a big Puppet Master kid. I wasn't allowed to watch any of the mainstream horror, but for some reason my parents didn't seem to care about the full moon stuff. So Puppet Master and watched Full Moon Video Zone at the end, showed some trailers for the movies. Saw that trailer and was like, well, I gotta watch that. I freaking loved it. It was a regular rental for me as a kid, probably at least a couple times a month. I dragged my parents to the video store, rent, crash, and burn. I initially, again, thought it was going to be a giant robot movie. It is not exactly that. There is a giant robot in it. But, I mean, you got Bill Moseley acting like Bill Moseley. It's a creepy little whodunit. There's some surprisingly decent gore shots. You do get a couple minutes of some giant robot action, which I'm pretty sure is mostly stock footage from other movies, but still work. So as a kid, loved it. Nowadays, I still go back to it at least a couple times a year and still have a good time. Just gives me the warm and fuzzies, the nostalgias. This is peak Full Moon for me. A lot of people like their subspecies, their Puppet Masters. I do love the Puppet Master franchise myself. But to me, this is the Full Moon movie from my childhood that I keep coming back to again and again.
That's fucking rad, dude. I wish I could say with any certainty that I have that type of history with it. I think that my origins with Crash and Burn probably changes every time I talk about it, because there's a unique phenomenon that really only happens if you grew up watching Full Moon movies. But certain movies, you can never be sure if you actually saw them, you know what I mean? Or if you just remember seeing a bunch of footage from them in video zones.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right? Like Arcade is definitely one of those too, where I thought that I'd rented it as a kid, but then when I actually reviewed it, it was like, nah, I totally didn't see this movie. I must have just seen it several video zones that showcased it, you know? So Crash and Burn's kind of in that similar thing with me. I think the most likely scenario is I was probably hyped on Robot Jocks and Robot Wars. And I rented this probably once as a kid and was like, this is bullshit. You know, where's the fucking robots? But, you know, since acquiring it for the collection and really digging into it, not only do I find sort of the false advertising hilarious, because this was actually in certain territories sold as Robot Jocks 2, which is just
egregious, I saw that. I was,
you know,
looking up some background for the movie. Yeah, no, because there is, like, I know we're joking about the lack of robots, but I'd say maybe you get a couple of shots of the robot just lying there doing nothing at the beginning of the movie, and then you get maybe 3 minutes of robot action near the
I feel like
third?
Yeah, it's 3 or 4. I feel like I timed it back when I did my initial Crash and Burn review. I think at the time I said it was like 7 minutes, but that's also including the other times where you just see it laying there. Basically, the robot is part of the set until at some point in the end of the movie when it becomes a set piece that stands up and walks around for a minute. And yeah, I mean, we don't want to spoil all that shit for you. And they kind of showed part of it in the trailer, so you really already sort of saw it. But
yeah, if you've seen
that's
the trailer,
about what the robot does.
Most of the robot action.
Yeah. And which sucks because they don't spend as much time advertising what the movie really. Hey, baby, Michael McNally up in here for round 2. He was just in the last stream. Again, you know, these aren't official until he shows up and graces us with his presence. But yeah, man, I mean, it really sucks because they shy away from advertising the strong points of the movie, and that's that it's legitimately one of the best like thrillers that Full Moon has ever done. They haven't attempted that stuff too many times, and most of the other times it's just kind of like, it's whatever, you know. But Crash and Burn stands out. Like whether you're, a fan that has a long history with it, or you're becoming more acquainted with it recently, like I have, there's no denying that this movie is a fucking powerhouse, and it just sucks that they spend so much time not advertising that. I think that's why it kind of flies under the radar for most people. I think, more people would probably talk about this film even outside of Full Moon fandom if it didn't just sort of look like one of their cheesy giant robot movies, which, I mean, if we're being real, that shit appeals to us, but it's not going to appeal to like most of your mainstream horror fans, and then, even for Full Moon fans, I think a lot of them probably have a similar experience to what I assume mine was, where you rent it thinking it's Robot Jocks Part 2, and it's just not, and as a kid, you're like, fuck this, but then you watch it again when you're older and you're like, God damn, this might be one of Bill Moseley's best performances, and it has some of the better production value of any of the Full Moon movies of the era. The plot is probably one of the more interesting post-apocalyptic scenarios that I've heard of. I mean, when you think about it, most post-apocalyptic movies just kind of lean on like the nuclear holocaust or whatever, or like the economy crashing or something. And there is that element of that in this, but these guys went full into the ozone layer with Crash and Burn, which I always thought, or I think is very unique, because I can't think of too many movies where that happens. I can't think of any.
No, there's one. It's driving me nuts. It was a made-for-TV movie, and it had Craig T. Nelson in it.
That's oh no, I'm thinking of that nuclear holocaust one that scared the shit out of everyone in like the 70s or whatever. Isn't it the day after or some shit?
It's like one of those. Yeah, no, it was one of these 4-hour movies, made for TV things. Had Craig T. Nelson. It was about the family going across country. But it dealt specifically with the fact that the world was basically on the verge of collapsing due to the ozone layer failing.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
That's the vibes I get from Crash and Burn.
Shit, dude, if those 80s motherfuckers with their hairspray can thaw gore by weakening that thing, I don't even want to know what could happen if a proper hole got like worn in it, We would end up in some Crash and Burn shit. I think we're on our way there, if I'm honest. Cody has popped in here. Old boy Cody Tudor. He's out there in Louisiana, I think, on a Mad Lads errand, filming 4 movies in 6 days with Jack Hunter Productions. Super stoked to see how those turn out, man. Thanks for taking some of your precious downtime to pop in here with us. So yeah, man, I don't know. I think Crash and Burn's super unique. I'm sure I've made it clear. I quickly took to it, and it's probably in my top 10 Full Moon movies overall if I had to narrow it down to just 10 of them. It's hard to deny it, it's right up there with like Castle Freak and Netherworld and all those gems that they did in the 90s. Jester Mikey is back as well. What's up, buddy? So basically, yeah, man, good luck with the shoot. Hopefully it turns out good. I'm looking forward to checking all those out and talking to you after the fact. So basically, just like we alluded to, is that the ozone layer has a hole in it, right? Like it's basically just went to shit. The world is a fucking wasteland. It's a post-apocalyptic wasteland where basically if you're outside for any real length of time without some type of protection, you're just going to cook. And even if you're inside, you're going to fucking cook. So air conditioning is a hot commodity. We basically open the story following this, delivery man from this company called Unicom, who basically rules the entire world. So imagine like if the ozone layer went to shit and we all were trapped indoors and would die without air conditioning, and like Facebook or Google ran the planet. That's exactly what's going on with Unicom. They basically have control over what information is disseminated amongst the people. They claim they're doing it, to ensure life, liberty, and the pursuit of economic stability. They've outlawed robots or computers or anything that could help you like get a hand up on the government, essentially. So these people are running. Go ahead. Sorry,
I was going to say they even control. They established that with the news broadcasts from the television station. That's Unicom as well. They own the news.
Yeah, they are the state-ran media, essentially. Yeah. They're the state. you know.
Yeah.
And this guy is delivering this basically Freon, or what is it, like some bullshit?
Yeah, it's Freon.
He's delivering that out to these guys, Megan Ward and her grandpa or whatever, at this fucking radio station out in the middle of nowhere that they are operating and basically broadcasting this state-run propaganda shit. But it turns out that secretly, the grandpa had been basically using this transmitter to send out all these codes to basically, if I remember right, it's to help like pirate broadcasters break through the broadcasting network so that they can get like truth to the people and shit. Am I wrong on that?
No, that's exactly what they're doing. Yeah, they're doing like a pirate broadcast through certain secure channels to get information across for freedom fighters and stuff. If I remember right.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they're running the free radio, and I believe her grandpa or whatever it is Tyson Keene, played by Paul Gannis. Megan Ward plays Aaron. Then we've got a couple other characters we'll get to when we get.
I thought her grandfather was played by wasn't it Ralph White, the dude from oh my god, Dallas?
Oh yeah, I think you are right, dude. My bad. I don't know these people like that well, so I'm just reading the fucking list here. But yeah, I think you are right. It is Ralph White, and for some reason he's not listed in the top of the credits here. Never really watched Dallas. Did they ever figure out who shot JR? Do you know? I know it's like a pop culture event.
I mean, I know the pop culture behind Dallas. That was the. So now when I hear the who shot JR thing, I know what they're talking about. That's great. See, I learned something tonight.
Yeah, I've never learned who did it. It just feels like it's.
I mean, I don't know who did it, but at least I know what show they're referencing now.
I don't really care, but it'd be nice to fill in that chunk of my childhood where it's like, oh, I guess it was this bitch. I'm sure with TV shows back then, it probably was a lady too. I don't know. Let's find out. Actually, I can't sit here and not know.
I got.
If anybody in the comments knows, oh, you got it. Yeah, who killed JR? Or who shot him? Because didn't he live?
Kristen Shepard, JR's what? Oh, spoilers for a 30-something-year-old television show.
Hey, man.
Kristen Shepard, JR's wife's sister-in-law and his former mistress shot him. You know what? I read that and I still don't know what that means.
Yeah, it sounded like it was 3 different people, which would be awesome, but I'm pretty sure that's not it. So it's it is just that lady. Cool, good to know. But yeah, you are right. It's Ralph White. Paul Gannis, I believe, plays our main hero guy, and then we have Megan Ward, and then we've got Jack McGee playing Winston Wicket, the sleazy. What does he do? Is he like a rep for the radio station? He's just sleazy and sweaty.
He is. He's like the whatever member of what is it? Unicron? Not Unicron. Unicom. Whoever runs that branch of Unicom, Jack McGee plays the son of that character.
That's right. And that's why they can't really just get rid of him.
And that's why he has his talk show. Yeah, because they can't get rid of him.
He's a shock jock whose dad basically owns the radio station, so he can do whatever he wants.
Which explains why he's so much of a sleaze too, because he knows he can get away with anything.
Yeah, man. And that guy, bless his soul, always sweats so good when they put him in movies. You ever notice that?
He's always sweating. I don't know if he's taking all the cocaine or if they just got him under a heat lamp at all times, but that dude always has like a healthy shine over him.
He's a bit rotund too,
Yeah, I'm a bit rotund too. I'm not sweating right now.
I'm not either, but if he threw us under some like movie lamps and shit, we might a little bit. We might leak a little. So
this is
credit to him, but hey, man, that's a skill in itself. We're praising fucking Jack McGee right now for being able to look so fucking greasy in these movies, and Winston Wicket would not be as rad of a sleazebag as he is if he wasn't so fucking sweaty. So, the science, wherever it's coming from there, is working in his favor.
You want the money?
But
don't worry about it right now. Sorry, my son just came in and asked for money for a video game.
Oh, shit. Well, hey, I've been there. I've definitely been there. He usually got shot down about the same way too. So basically, this dude, ends up swept up in all this delivery boy, right? Tyson Keene, who does have, I think I said it in my review, a certain quality to him where he's like sort of exactly that type of dude you want to be the hero in these sort of movies. Like he's handsome in a fun sort of Nintendo character kind of way. So where even if you're a dude, you can be like, this guy looks awesome without fucking feeling weird about it or whatever.
I was surprised too because I looked up Paul Ganis to do this, and he's not in a lot. I was surprised that at the very least he didn't get picked up for these direct-to-video 90s flicks. He's got the the everyman charm and the handsomeness, and he I mean the acting was fine. He looks like a
fucking Double Dragon character or something. I mean, he's got that perfect sort of 90s straight to video movie hero look to him.
Exactly, yeah. I'm surprised.
I didn't think he did any other full moon shit, did he?
No, not that I can tell. That was honestly a huge surprise. I thought, like I said, he's solid. Well, the whole cast, really. I can't think of anybody I didn't like.
Oh yeah, there's not a single person on the cast that is miscast or not given it their all, which is a big part of what makes Crash and Burn several tiers above most of Full Moon's output, even in the 90s. But basically, Tyson Keene, our delivery boy, ends up swept up in this whole situation. He's delivering the Freon to him. Our dude, Ralph White, gets fucking murdered mysteriously while he's like working on sending out these signals to the people or to these pirate broadcasters or whatever. And then whether through intentional means or just happenstance, their air conditioning like simultaneously breaks. I think it's actually because they toss Ralph White's fucking corpse onto the he's not a corpse yet until he hits the electrical. But he basically takes out the power or their air conditioning system. So they're trapped in this radio station. Somebody amongst them is a killer, and they're going to slowly cook to death if they can't get this shit fixed. That's the premise of the entire movie. It is eventually revealed that, Unicom is a big fan of sending these like android sleeper agents into these different cells of resistance to basically snuff them out. So they know that there's like a killer android running around this fucking radio station with them while they're slowly potentially going to cook to death. But the only thing is none of them know who it is. The way I try to describe Crash and Burn to people is if you took like a slasher film and you mixed it with like equal parts of The Thing and like Terminator.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And that's a rad fucking combination. I don't think most people would disagree,
No, J.S. Cardone and Charlie Band were sitting together watching Terminator, watching The Thing, and they're like, we can do that too. But we're going to do it as one movie.
Yeah, and that was a smart choice, because had they just imitated either, it would have probably stoinked. But what we got was like a fun combination of some pretty great films, And Bill Moseley's performance, I would say, his performance and Megan Ward's are probably the best of the whole bunch. Megan Ward plays obviously like either the niece or the granddaughter of the dude that
I think it's the granddaughter. I can't. Yeah, I think it's the granddaughter.
Yeah. She's related to Ralph White somehow, but she was actually helping him with broadcasting these signals because she's like super good with computers, which they also have set up in the basement of this place, even though they're technically illegal. And she was on the side, fixing up this robot that we see laying around outside, which briefly comes into play, as we mentioned earlier. What were you going to say about Megan?
No, like her and Bill Moseley are really they shine in this.
Yeah. I mean, Tyson Keene's a big deal too, or whatever his name was, Paul Ganis.
Oh yeah, Paul Ganis.
He does great. Good.
As a kid, I hadn't seen this. I watched this all the time when I was a kid, but growing up, not having access. I live in rural Canada, man. Like if we got what we got as far as movie rentals go, I'd gone several years without seeing this movie, and the two things that always stood out to me were Megan Ward and Bill Moseley. I didn't forget about them. Paul Gannis is great in it. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, he's an everyman action hero. But rewatching this those several years ago when I posted about it on the DNL board, that was what I remembered going into it. Was I remembered Megan Ward and I remembered Bill Moseley.
Fucking A, dude. I mean, again, Paul Gannis is great. But like you said, he's sort of everyman action here. Like, he'd have been great in any of these. So it's not really as notable because it's like, shit, he could have been great in this movie without these people. He had a good charm to him. You could put him in half a dozen of these fucking full moon sci-fi movies from back in the day and he'd have ruled. But Megan Ward, especially with her, I mean, I don't know if you call it chemistry in the traditional sense, but when Bill Moseley is finally like full killer robot mode, and he's interacting with her, there's like a genuine fear, I think. I'd probably be afraid of fucking Bill Moseley too if I was working with him and they were like, check out this other stuff he's done, and then it's Chop Top. You're like, wow, yeah. I don't know if I can fully trust this dude. Which I have a fun aside about Bill Moseley, but we'll get to that. Yeah, there's just something about it, man. And Bill Moseley seemed like he was having an absolute blast portraying one of the killer androids. Spoiler alert. Real good stuff, like you said. He's responsible for one of the better arm ripping scenes that I've seen maybe ever. When he rips off Winston Wickett's fucking arm, and it's just oh man, it's got this elastic snap to it, Yeah,
that was a meaty rip. That was a good rip.
Mm-hmm. That's right up there with like the spine rip from Dark Angel as being one of the best gory scenes in a full moon movie, period. They don't do heavy gore too often when you think about it. But when they do, they make sure it's done proper.
The other surprising thing, and I know Bill Moseley, he's technically a robot, so he's not human per se, but Charlie Band this was an actual like Charles Band directed full moon movie. Charlie Band usually doesn't the human on human violence. He's more about, give me your subspecies or your puppets or
fantastical stuff.
Yeah, Stuart Gordon directed Castle Freak. But yeah, he's more about monsters and mythological things attacking humans. So it's rare to see Charlie Band do human on human violence. Again, technically a robot, but he pulls it off good. Like I said, that was a meaty arm
aside though. Yeah, it is. Yeah, and even with him being an android, that's pretty goddamn. I mean, it's basically the same thing. That's as close as you're gonna see Charles Band get to like visceral human on human slasher style violence is probably the,
because I read his memoirs there, and I believe he said he doesn't like person on person violence, and that's actually why
his whole thing
him so much. Like, I'm not a big fan of it either.
I love it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, half of my movie collection is like slasher films and giallo films and just mean-spirited ass like exploitation flicks. But what makes Full Moon fun is that, and that's always been his mission statement, dude. I believe it's not a direct quote. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But Charlie's attitude was always sort of like, why would we just do the same thing everybody else is doing? Like, he has no interest in doing slasher films. I believe he even said Full Moon will never do a slasher film, which they kind of broke that a little bit with Trophy Heads. But Trophy Heads isn't even a straight up slasher film, so not really. It kind of borders on it. But the closest they ever came to it was Tourist Trap, and that was like pre-Full Moon, so that doesn't even count. That was even pre-Empire. It was just a movie.
That was Charlie trying to get out there. So everybody was
like Full Moon's thing was always that they wanted to focus on fantastical horror and, like you said, weird creatures and puppets and mythological shit and vampires and whatever, And I respect that, because it would have been easy for him to just make a bunch of cheap slasher movies and like cash in. And he was even going with that with like Empire, man. I mean, there's not a slasher movie that they did for Empire. It's all shit like, Metal Storm or whatever, or like The Alchemist, or Troll, or Robot Jocks, or Dolls. Exactly. Ghoulies. Like they were basically doing the same thing with Empire. So he's been true to that shit for years, and it's pretty rad, because if Full Moon did a bunch of that shit, they would just be a studio that put out a cool movie every now and again that was unique. But instead, they focused on that. We got a solid decade of them being unique,
The man's
and a
got
couple
code
other
and
afterwards
followed
where they were. Yeah, and he still sticks to it. He'd rather do something goofy and shitty than, just imitate what other people are doing. And, you got to respect them.
Yeah, he definitely. Yeah, you can say a lot about Charlie Band Productions. You cannot say he imitates anyone, though.
No, not at all. Well, sometimes.
Well,
but not
he is the
heavily
king of
enough
exploitation. So, yeah, he does. But he imitates. I wouldn't say he full on imitates. He takes existing ideas and makes them his own.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not him just aping it to make a buck real quick.
No, if he takes someone else's idea, he's still going to make something unique out of it.
I feel like there's always that nod of like, dude, I was fucking super tired. We had like an emotional reunion, and also I had to like do other shit that day, and the day did not work out. Several things went south when we tried this the first time. Not even
in hindsight,
I made the best of the day.
4th of July was probably not the best day to pick that.
Yeah, probably not. We're doing much better tonight, though, eh? I think we're doing it justice.
We are.
But, basically the first, once this shit kicks off, it turns into a very desperate race against the clock where they're trying to fix their air conditioning system while at the same time obviously not get murdered by a killer android and figure out who this killer android might be. Eventually it's revealed that it's Bill Moseley. And they have a pretty insane fucking climax with that dude, which I'm sure we'll talk about when we get to favorite scenes. But it turns out he's not the only android amongst them, which I do not want to spoil for you guys. Check it out, see if you can guess who the second sleeper agent is, and come back and put it in the comments below, because I think it was a pretty effective twist. Would you agree? I don't know that I saw that coming the first time I fully watched this.
I mean, to be fair, I was like 8 years old the first time, so. But at the same, it's a solid. Just going in now, like as we mentioned, there are 2. I'd still say you're hard pressed to guess who it is.
Yeah, I can't think of any scenes or anything that sort of telegraphs that that's what's going to happen. It is a proper out of left field. Like, whoa, okay. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that they would put more than one, but holy shit, didn't see that being the case, If anything, I would have thought Winston would have woke up and been like, I only have one arm, but I don't know, that would have been kind of funny. But, or maybe fucking Ralph White wakes up all crisped up and he's like, secretly, I was one all along.
That would have been pretty badass. Not gonna lie, that would have been pretty awesome.
Fuck yeah. The makeup alone would have made it a memorable scene because he got proper fried and dropped quite a distance.
The makeup was really good in this.
Yes, I think we've pretty much, for the most part, covered the plot.
I mean, big robot shows up
from
for
a
3
toilet,
minutes.
Tyler.
I mean,
who was?
I'm not
honestly, I've been tempted, dude. You ever been super hungover and you're throwing up in the toilet and you keep flushing it and it's like, man, this water is fresh as fuck. You can just feel how cold it is because it's coming straight out of the pipes. And when you're hungover, you're super thirsty.
I'm not allowed to be hungover.
I've never been tempted to drink the water, maybe, but it's I might take some from the tank if I was super, if I was feeling super fucking hungover and I needed to just hydrate. I might
watching
cup from the tank,
I was watching a movie with my kids the other day, and they asked about that. They're like, "Wait, can you drink water from the tank of a toilet? Isn't that dirty?" And I said, "I mean, it's technically the same water you get out of the bathroom sink, so it's fine."
Yeah, and the tank doesn't touch any of your shit or piss.
No,
yeah, it's a real thing, dude. I mean, well, I would never run that in my own place. You know? If I was going to do that, it's at someone else's house or like a public toilet. You know? So we're safe there.
In Crash and Burn, that's
totally
the story. Tyler just mentioned it. That's right. They do drink from the toilet in Crash and Burn.
Yeah, he put that up, and I'm having a hard time remembering when. But is it after the whole? Oh, doesn't someone explain that in the movie too?
They say that, yeah, because like the AC is out and everything, and their water system. There's something wrong with their water system too. So they do send Jack McGee, Winston Wicket, out, and his job is to collect water from the toilets.
I must have been like rolling a fucking joint or something when I was watching it this time because I totally forgot about
it's like
that.
It's like a 2 second it's like a 2 second thing. Someone says it, and then there's like a maybe 10-second scene later on in the movie where he's like using a ladle or something to collect water out of the toilets. It doesn't go anywhere, but they do.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, like, it's weird that we even because it's not toilet water yet when it's in the tank. You know, it is.
Oh no, he collects it out of the. That's the weird thing. He collects it out of the bowl.
Well,
I don't know why he did that.
Damn, bro. Of course, well, because it's Winston, and he's a piece of shit.
That's hardcore. That's, yeah, that's putting a lot of faith.
Wow, dude. Yeah. Well, hopefully they boiled it first, at least.
That's how you get pink eye.
or worse. Last thing you want in a radio station that's slowly becoming a literal oven is dysentery.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Diarrhea and dehydration.
Especially after he just emptied all the water out of the toilets. You don't even have like one last desperation flush anymore with them at that point. So you're just spraying brown, you know.
Spraying brown.
Hoping no one has to go in that room.
That's a very different movie.
So, yes, sir. That Crash and Burn would take on a whole new meaning. But basically, we nailed down the plot as much as I'm comfortable doing without spoiling the film. You know, just watch it. It's
you stopped at a good part there. We're leaving out the last third, basically, which is where the twisty twists start to happen. So, yeah, let's face it, Bill Moseley being an android isn't a spoiler. It's in the damn trailer.
True enough, they actually saw that already before we even started talking about it. And that's really the bulk of like the action sequences to talk about, you know. And we're going to get into that when we get into our favorites and just production and stuff right now. But real quick, if you would like to kill some time while I run to the restroom real quick, give them your basic impression of the Crash and Burn poster that we forgot to put up when we were doing our first impression.
Oh, yeah. Just sorry.
I think it's a great poster, but there are several examples of the blatant false advertising that they're pointing out.
I don't see any false advertising on this. So sorry, he's headed out to the bathroom. So I'm looking at this poster. First off, the robot is a lie. There is a robot. It does robot things for about 3 minutes. It does look cool, but I think it's mostly just stock footage from Robot Jocks. I can attest to that. Jester Mikey, awesome poster. I have the actual poster. I wish I had the actual poster. I love this movie, and for some reason, I don't own a physical copy of it. I literally own, between VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray, I probably own about 2,000 to 3,000 physical copies of movies. I don't own this one. But yeah, actually, Mo's back. Biggest lie in this poster is the robot. Realistically, what you should do is take that little Bill Moseley over there, slap his face on the back, nice and large, and put the robot in the corner. Everything else is pretty. The movie isn't that orange.
It's pretty orange, but not that orange. Or at least that's the way it looks on my copy. I do like the touch of the radio station like scorching between the robot's legs, though. I don't know if I ever noticed that until right now.
Oh, wait,
but that is a super cool little subtle touch there.
Oh, there we go. Okay, it's bigger now. Yes, I see it.
You see it back there with like the satellite dish
I do
and
now,
shit,
yeah.
and it's like fully scorching. That's so rad. But yeah, they make it seem like there's like explosions going on, and there's a robot back there looming over the whole scene, like he's gonna really get involved. And the weapons of the future are alive, which is technically accurate. But looking at this poster, you think they're referring to the robot, and really they're referring to tiny Bill Moseley down there. It's just
so it's maybe possible that the
state.
Charlie Band was trying to do a twisty twist right from the get-go. You think it's going to be about giant robots.
Oh,
but it's not. It's about cyborgs.
Yeah, I think that definitely he got a little bit of cold feet and was like, we really got to try to make this sort of tie into our, like our other giant robot stuff, so that it has like some marketability. When I really think they could have marketed it as more of like just a sci-fi thriller and been fine. Jester Mikey says, awesome poster. I have the actual poster. That's fucking rad, dude. I'm hoping to get a copy of that myself here real soon. Dark Angel poster is another one that I want real bad. And then several of the older ones, like the Tourist Trap ones and shit. There's a lot of Full Moon posters I still got to get. Thankfully, you could, whether or not you care about it being vintage is a point of contention for some people. I don't really give a shit. I mean, I'd rather pay like $20 for just a reprint of it, because I just want to frame it and put it on the wall. If someone cares about it being like vintage, right? I'd rather like those vintage posters go to someone that might go out and collect autographs on it or something. I don't want it just to decorate my wall. You know what I'm saying? I'm not really an autograph
exactly.
So I feel like
the same kind of people who are worried about the vintage posters are the same kind of people who, like, you got your Leech Woman and stuff there. The same kind of people that want a vintage poster, the same kind of people that wouldn't open up Leech Woman. But me, like, I got my
in the bubble wrap.
Yeah, I got my actual. I don't know what she came in, if she came in a box or not, but
Full Moon
like,
doesn't
I'm the kind of guy
in boxes, bro.
I'm just saying,
It'd be
the
awesome
same kind
if
of people
they
who
came
worry
in
about
boxes,
vintage
but
posters are the same kind of people who get something in a box and don't take it out of the box
and just leave it.
I've never kept
It
anything
just feels
in a box.
like a shame. Dude, these guys up here are getting unboxed eventually. I just have to get a shelf set up so that I can display my figures. But I do want to have like all the Full Moon figures, but I refuse to leave them carded and like in the fucking bubble. That seems lame.
How are you gonna enjoy them if they're stuck in a box the whole time? Like, I got all my action.
And it just looks better displayed.
But I got all my action figures up in the corner there. They're not in their box.
And don't get us wrong, no hate to anybody that collects that way. I mean, I'm fine with people that are like collectors like that. But yeah, it's like at the end of the day, for me, these posters look the same as if it was a vintage poster from a video store. It's going to look the same. It might just have damage, and I'd rather it just look pristine in a frame.
See, I've got my Kenner Bull Alien here, and if I kept him in the box, I wouldn't be able to do the little head. Where's the thing? The head bobbing action right there. Like, see, I want to be able to do that.
Dude, people forget that like playing with toys is like their fucking purpose, It very narrowly talked myself out of doing this entire fucking podcast with 6-shooter sitting on my lap like a tiny child. I mean, I thought that would have been hilarious, but then I thought about it and I'm like, I'm probably gonna drink like 4 to 6 beers while I do that, and I don't want to drop that child, So I left him up there where he should be, But yeah, man, I mean, I don't know. I'm all for like people that collect shit like that, but it's just not me. I mean, I'd rather spend $12 to $20 on a reprint of these posters, throw in a frame, and call it a day.
Mad respect to the people who have the self-control to keep things in the box. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, dude, Jester Mikey right there. He probably has like all of these posters, but vintage for the most part, or a lot of them anyways. He's got like old school fucking standees and shit that would be on like video store counters and cool promo Full Moon stuff that I would not kill someone to have, but I would maybe make sweet love to them.
Yeah, you say, yeah.
Let them use me
through that.
for their own.
Most of this is just me being a
just
little jealous of the
little
fact that
taste
I
of
just
that
I
Meridian
can't do
stand
that.
there,
So.
boy. We can't hear, but no, it's Crash and Burn poster fucking rules. Soundtrack absolutely rules too. Though it is a surprisingly chill soundtrack, but that's because the movie is more of like a ambient thriller. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't have like a poppin' like synth soundtrack that hits a lot of rockin' highs or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Which is surprising.
I ended up, from when I did the review, I had to...
It is a Richard Band soundtrack.
Right.
And that
he went
really
for more of a
surprised
bleak...
Because he's usually,
he went for
like
more
you
of
said,
like
like you hear your Puppet Master and stuff. He's always kind of
very
fantastical,
flamboyant and boisterous.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
So it's surprising to find
they went
out.
For more
I
of
looked it up.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
No, you first, sir.
I was basically just finishing up what I was saying. I looked it up because I wanted to know who did the music for it, because like, especially when it's directed by Charles Band, usually it's almost a guarantee that Richard is doing the music. So I was surprised when I listened to it. I was like, I wonder who did it this time, but it was Richard. And this is probably his most what's the word I'm looking for? Like, he held back. And made it, like you said, very bleak, very low key. Subdued. It works for the movie fantastically. Subdued, yeah. I mean, it's fantastic for the movie. I'm just more power to the man, because I didn't think he had it in him.
See, I ended up we've said, it's great, but it didn't lend itself to the review. So when I did my review of Crash and Burn, I ended up just using like the song by Dokken.
The Crash and
background
Burn
music, because it worked better. It's one of my best reviews in terms of like the audio mix. I love it. But yeah, it was... Certain soundtracks don't work for, usually what I'll do is when I do a full moon review is I'll take like a section of the music for the movie that I really like, typically the main theme, and then I'll just loop it, make it to where I can make it like 9 minutes long, and it just plays over the review in the background, kind of subtle, like,
Mm-hmm. This movie does not lend
sometimes
itself
you can
to that.
really...
It works great for the movie, but does not lend itself for those shorter...
I tried it, I did try it, but then when I watched the review, it was like, this is boring as fucking sin right here. Like, it's just me talking over like noises, basically, because unless it's to the shit that you're watching, it doesn't do anything. But that Dokken song fixed the whole review, So that's a good discussion of the music there, I think. So we've covered that. We did briefly touch on the effects, and I will say that the makeup in this is fucking pretty astounding. We touched a little bit on the gore with the Winston Wicked arm rip, but him getting shoved up into that light looked really good too. Just generally Bill Moseley's makeup as it progressively got worse looked pretty fucked as well. Especially once he's full on like gross garbage truck android mode when they're like outside, and he's been totally fucking like just ran over basically several times. He just looks disgusting, and I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, just good goopy fun.
Yeah. He eventually gets like stepped on by a robot, isn't that the case?
That is how it. Yeah, that is your robot scene. Your 3 minutes of robot.
That's the culmination of it. Is it squishes Bill Moseley, and then goes dormant again.
8 out of 10, solid robot.
And then there's the twist. So stuff we can't talk about, actually.
Yeah, we're not talking about anything after the robot stop.
In terms of like general production value or like production design, like with the sets and everything like that, I think it's all pretty solid. You buy it as being like a semi-futuristic, at least by 90s standards, world, that's been lived in a little bit too, which is my favorite part of Crash and Burn. It's got that little bit of griminess to it, whereas something like Robot Jocks felt a little too pristine. it's very similar to my complaint about like, you know, the Star Wars prequel trilogy or something. Any type of place that's
too
been
clean,
lived
yeah.
in for, you know, yeah.
Yeah, it really had
this,
that.
that's not the
same
case
as
with
like
this one.
no, same as like in something like Alien, where it was there was some futuristic tech, but it felt like
It's got that
every day,
texture
like this is
to
stuff
it
that
where
gets
you
used.
can,
Yeah, everything's been used.
yeah,
This is the kind of stuff.
exactly.
Like I go out to my work van or something. Like this movie looks no different than that. It's rough. It looks like it's been used for years. Some of it's probably breaking down. It's a good look.
Yep. It really is, and it lends itself obviously to the proceedings. You buy it as like some shit that you know, would be going on in the reality that you're presented. Whereas a lot of other movies that try this kind of shit, the set dressing and stuff can take you so far out of it that you're like, well, this is just clearly like some hokey goofum shit. You know, I'm not meant to take this. It's more of a, how do I put it? It's more of like a. When you watch stuff like that, it's more like they're presenting to you a what if scenario, you know,
Yeah,
like old magazines, you know, where it's like some pristine sci-fi story with some fucking really crisp illustration or something, and it's like that's Future Magazine. When you're watching something like Crash and Burn, you're reading like Strange Tales. You know, it's got that texture to it.
For sure.
And I love it. Tylord says, is Silent Night, Deadly Night 4 Full Moon? No.
No.
Weirdly enough, Full Moon is kind of straight away from the holiday movies. The only one I can really think of that technically counts as one is Ginger Dead Man, which, you know, obviously it's kind of Christmassy, you know. Most people don't even make that connection, and I never did until Septon Sin from Septon Sin versus the World was like, yeah, it's technically a Christmas movie. If you want to be real about it, Trancers is also a Christmas movie. There's a heavy Christmas theme in that first Trancers movie.
Oh shit, that's
Jack Death
right.
beats the
Because
shit out of
the
Santa
elves and
Claus.
Santa Claus.
Yeah,
That's right.
not only that,
Trancers
dude,
is
but
a
then there
Christmas
is like punk rock versions of Christmas carols later when they go to the club. There's a whole scene where they exchange gifts. I mean, Trancers is a fucking Christmas movie.
God damn.
It's more of a Christmas movie than Die Hard, you know.
I just watched Trancers not too long ago again. How have I never picked up on that? He literally,
because
it's Santa he beats up, isn't it? Or is it one of the elves?
No, he beats up Santa Claus, and then he shoots him. And at the end, that kid's like, "Mom, he shot Santa," or whatever. It's fucking hysterical, bro. But the movie is so crazy that it's, you know, like I never really thought about it, but yeah, Trancers, like I said, it's more of a fucking Christmas movie than Die Hard. Tyler was pleasantly surprised by Crash and Burn. I think more people would be if they were given the movie and like not given any of that giant robot fucking pretext and just allowed to watch it, you know. So it's definitely a movie we should all endeavor to show to our friends and whatnot, or just recommend to people and tell them to go in without any expectations and just enjoy it. Like I alluded to earlier, I firmly believe this is one of Bill Moseley's best performances. He is fully like dialing it up to 11. He's doing the fucking the chop top thing, but in like a more refined way, I think, in this. And he genuinely kind of creeps me out at a couple of points of this film.
Yeah, like that.
Especially
You're probably going to say it. Go ahead.
No, you first. You're the guest.
I was just going to say the part where he has Megan Ward held up there, and I keep forgetting. See, this is how, I hate to say it, this is how forgettable he is. He's a good action hero, but Paul Gannis. Where he has Megan Ward held up there, and Paul Gannis has got the shot he pointed at him, and he's threatening to kill Megan Ward. Like he's legit menacing in that scene. And they take a shot at him, and he just kind of makes the
out of
joke
his
about
head.
how that hurt. Yeah,
like fucking.
Yeah,
and he's like. There's always that point too. This movie has one of those moments where he says the title of the movie, and I don't know, like, obviously I don't recall it from being a kid, but when I was a kid and that shit would happen, I'd be like, oh shit, you know, it's like that moment you would like shake your friend next to you or something, like he said the name of the movie, you know. It's a cheap thrill, but it's yeah.
No, it's
but yeah, Bill Moseley wasn't holding back.
And it's he's so laid back though until the reveal. And that's a testament to Bill Moseley. Like that dude deserves. I know he's big in the horror scene, and you know, like I'd say though, if you're a casual horror fan, you still don't know who Bill Moseley is all that much. But if you're like a hardcore horror fan, everybody knows who Bill Moseley is. But this is a man that I think he deserves more mainstream praise. Like this guy can act the shit out of anything. He really does.
He can. Sometimes you know, the Rob Zombie catalog, I think, is actually sort of a disservice in some ways to Bill Moseley. He's better than that. You know, the first movie is perfection, dude. But like, for me, Devil's Rejects and 3 from Hell was just kind of Bill yelling a lot of the time. You know, he had some great lines.
Because I'm in the same boat as you. Corpses is...
Yeah, I like a little bit more sinister, simmering Bill is better for me than just have him scream the whole time. And then just also in recent years learning that Bill Moseley was like such good friends with Buckethead for a long time. They did like 9 albums together, dude. There's like 9 fucking albums. I think the band is called the Cornbugs, and it's Bill Moseley and fucking Buckethead. And basically Bill is playing Chop Top, doing like all these crazy lyrics over Buckethead shredding. Jesus.
That's the thing. You learn about these actors. Turns out these actors have been in bands for years, and you never know. Well, all of a sudden one day you're like, they've been doing music for the last 10 years.
Here's a fun aside, and we may have talked about it in our first attempt at the Crash and Burn review here, but I mentioned this earlier, and I do want to get to it now since you mentioned we're talking about him and music. I went to the Crypticon in Seattle a couple of months back with the kid, and we were walking in. I think it was maybe the second day. It could have been the first day. But we were walking in, and as I was going in, Bill Moseley was coming out, and I saw him, and like we fully made eye contact, and I didn't say anything. I just like nodded at him, and he just goes, "Hey," like in that Bill Moseley voice, you know, and he looked like he really appreciated us not fucking with him because he was clearly walking with purpose. Like he was going somewhere. He was actually moving way quicker than us when we were trying to get inside out of the heat. And he was wearing a Gore shirt.
Nice.
Thought that was pretty good. Yeah, I'm sure if you go back to that weekend and look at Bill's socials, he's probably present very visibly in the Gore shirt. But seeing him and just that brief crossing of paths is super cool, you know. Because I'm sure when we made eye contact, he was like, "Uh-oh," you know, like a little part of him had to have been like, "Uh-oh, I'm gonna have to stop right now." You know, I didn't even say anything. I just nodded and just kept walking, you know. And he's like, "Hey." Good stuff.
That's cool. That is cool.
Got to choose your times.
Because it's exactly like you said. He probably thought, "Oh, here comes another fan. I'm going to have to do something." Then we just gave him a little nod, like, "Hey, I know who you are, but you seem busy." Then he just made sure to give you that little, "Hey, how's it going?"
If he'd just been standing there, I probably would have walked up to him and talked about Crash and Burn and fucking Texas Chainsaw and shit. But he wasn't. He was, like you said, you know.
We don't get a lot of cons or anything out here in Canada, so I don't get to even have a chance to meet these people. But everything I've heard about Bill Moseley is that he's pretty laid back for the most part, and he loves his fans.
Seems like
he's just I think he's just as amazed that he's become as popular as he has as anybody else. Like he just, I think he really appreciates his fan base.
I could see that.
Well, he was a guy that started with he came from a parody of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that he did on his own because he thought it would be a fun time. And that's how he
I forget what it's called.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
It's out there. It floats around.
Yeah.
Some shit like that, yeah. See, and dude, him and Buckethead eventually got told like that they couldn't use the Chop Top character when they were doing the albums. So Bill just adopted like this other persona. It's still just him doing Chop Top, but they couldn't call it Chop Top anymore. Which basically ended the Corn Bugs, because the idea of the Corn Bugs was it was Chop Top from Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a band with Buckethead, basically. It's cool shit, man. You know, real cool shit. Fucking Bill would hang out with Buckethead a bunch too, because all Buckethead does when he makes albums is like hang out at cemeteries and fucking watch horror films, you know. So easy for a dude like Bill to mix in. I just missed out on him at Sacramento convention. Yeah, unfortunately, we kind of missed out on all of his, like, we didn't get to see his panel, and I don't go in for the autographs because it's just too expensive and it takes away all your time to enjoy the rest of the convention. But I really wanted to go to his panel. Unfortunately, my kid had a bunch of Chucky panels that were like going on at the con, and it was her first horror con. It was mine too, but you know, she took precedent. So we went and saw the Chucky panels, and they were pretty cool. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I'm not as big of a Chucky fan as she is, but I still found it really enjoyable. And even though the kid that played Andy had to cancel, we ended up getting the girl that Charles, you know, Brad Dourif's daughter that plays, you know what I'm talking about.
Fiona.
That chick. We got
Dorff,
her with the girl that played. Yeah, we got her with the girl that played Kyle in Child's Play 2, who's like probably my favorite character in the franchise. So, you know, the punky,
it's nice
like,
to see her back in the series.
Yeah, for sure. It sucks that Andy had to cancel, but he was sick or whatever, and you can't really just go to conventions when you're sick from traveling anymore. It could mean any number of things.
Yeah, exactly. Just playing it smart.
Yeah.
But that's still cool. Those are Fiona Dourif is quickly becoming just as popular as her dad. So,
well, because she's amazing, you know.
She is.
Even though I'm not as big of a fan as my kid is. Oh, I don't know. I honestly can't say that.
I can't remember. But it's a great show.
I think she's going to be typecast with that kind of stuff for a while. But
she's damn good at it. So might as well, if you're going to get typecasted for something, be typecasted for something you're good at.
Tyler says he met Bill many years ago at a con. He was super enthusiastic. I could see that, you know. Again, I haven't met him at anything. I've only seen interviews with Bill Moseley. But he seems like one of those guys that truly appreciates what he's doing, you know. And too many of them, well, actually, most horror people seem to appreciate it. I think it's just Hollywood people that don't, you know. And as big of a deal as like Rob Zombie movies are and shit, Bill Moseley's not like a Hollywood dude.
No, he's
Sid Haig wasn't either.
Horror actor who loves horror movies. He's doing it because it's doing something he loves, not for a paycheck. I mean, the paychecks don't hurt. Don't get me wrong, but he enjoys the genre he's in. He's a horror fan too.
So I guess speaking of Bill and horror, what would be your? We've pretty much ran down the list of most of the talking points, you know, in terms of post shit like production value, score, effects, and all that. So if you had to pick like favorite scenes,
sorry, favorite what?
Oh, if you had to pick favorite scenes in the film or favorite character, what would they be?
Well, we already mentioned the Jack McGee arm rip scene. I can't really talk about my other favorite scene because it's delving into some spoiler territory. But
true,
I do. We mentioned The Thing, how it's kind of a ripoff of not a ripoff, but homage to Terminator and The Thing. I did like The Thing scene, like where they're testing everybody to make sure they're bleeding. And they find out that Bill Moseley bled red like everybody else, but because of Jack McGee gets the infection later, that's how they figured out that Bill Moseley was the robot, because it was Bill Moseley's blood, which was the Freon, got into Jack McGee's bloodstream, which is what caused the inflammation and the swelling. on his
Yeah,
finger.
that's true,
And
because
that's how
he
they
does
figured
have
out.
that whole shit.
Yeah.
We didn't even
And it was
talk about
because-
how gross his fucking arm gets too.
Oh yeah, all friggin' swollen up,
dude.
and you can just
So
looks like
swollen,
the skin's about
like-
to burst.
Looks like he's made of
And that
sausage,
was- yeah.
almost. And
Yeah, and that
And
was
that's the arm
because
he rips
Bill
off,
Moseley
too.
had the Freon. Yeah, that was
how
the
sick is that to think too? Because with as much as that arm probably hurt being like that, there might have even been that momentarily moment of relief when he ripped it off. That makes my stomach queasy to think about, but yeah.
Yeah, his
If
fingers
your
were
arm
just
was that
swollen.
infected and fucked up and someone just ripped it off, you might feel like, oh, that's nice. Oh
And
my
that's a
god,
testament again to that's a testament again to the special effects of this movie. That arm,
Yeah.
like I've seen my share in my with my past jobs. I've seen my share of infected arms and fingers and shit. That legit looked like a very infected hand. Like that was impressive.
It couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, but still, it looked.
But that
very
was
uncomfortable.
that's definitely without getting into spoilery stuff, that is definitely one of my favorite scenes was when they're testing everybody's blood.
I think that's probably one of mine as well. I think in terms of like the action or effect sequences, probably the whole like catwalk altercation between Bill Moseley and Megan Ward, and then see, I forgot his name again now too.
Paul Gannis, Tyson Keene.
Paul Gannis. There it is.
I mean, he plays every man to the best because
We're sorry,
we keep forgetting
Paul.
who he is.
Come on our show and explain to us why you never did any more Full Moon stuff.
But he was good. He was fantastic.
Yeah,
I
that
just
whole
remember him as the
interaction.
hero. But yeah, no, that whole interaction on the catwalk.
Like, it might feel like a cheap answer, but it because it is arguably one of the main peaks of the film is that one. But God, it's just so good, the way it all plays out.
That's where Bill Moseley switches from like everyday nice guy to he, like you said, he cranks it up to that 11 Bill Moseley that he's so good at.
Dude, this movie plays a lot too on that fear that you get when you're like watching that scene in Alien where what's the name of that first android? Ash, when he finally freaks out in the first Alien movie. Like that shit traumatized me a little bit as a kid, and this movie still kind of like my heart rate elevates a little bit when it's like, oh shit, this guy's all of a sudden an android and he's like trying to choke you with a magazine or some shit, like trying to Sigourney Weaver your ass. You remember that?
You're right.
It's like trying to.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's exactly
magazine.
like that. Like he's the android knows that's it. I can't hide anymore. So might as well go full on gonna kill you mode. Because like there's nothing else, I can't hide anymore. So time to die. No, it's exactly like that. I didn't even think of that comparison, but you're right. It's exactly like that scene in Alien.
Yeah, that's in the DNA for sure, because I don't know about you, man, but that scene in that movie still bugs me out. I don't know why it bothers me so much that he like tries to roll that magazine up and choke her with it. That's like some prison shit,
Yeah.
Like you don't have something to kill someone with, so you just roll up a magazine and like put it in their fucking mouth and just hold them there until they die. Like that's a fucked up.
I mean, forget the fact that he's got android strength that he could probably just choke her out, but he's going to use the magazine.
Yeah, he's doing that for the sheer joy of it, and that's fucked up.
Yeah.
So Bill didn't quite go that far, but he took it pretty far in this. It's good fun. So that's probably my favorite scene overall.
That's a good
favorite
scene.
character has probably got to be Winston Wicket.
Yeah, I'd love to say, what, I'm going to agree with you. I'd love to say it would be Moseley, but I mean, Wicket was just so damn sleazy, and his death was so satisfying.
Yeah,
like he really
it's full payoff.
Like
every character,
lots of people die in this movie, but it's usually just either a quick shotty to the gut or they get thrown off of a ledge. Like Wicket's death hurt.
Yeah, he pays and then some. Because at the end of the day, he's mostly just greasy. Nothing he was doing deserves for
Well, that's the
fate
thing.
that he
He's
got.
just an asshole at the end of the
know?
day.
Yeah.
Plenty of people are
So when you
assholes.
watch
They don't
the
deserve
movie,
that.
you're like, yo, I hate this dude and he's gross. But then when he gets killed, you're like, oh man, I don't know if that was necessary.
That was a bit much.
You could have just snapped his neck or something. I mean,
no,
he was already dealing with that grody hand, you know.
Because of the swollen hand. But,
so I don't know, man. If you had any closing thoughts, or like, you know, snippet, or how would you recommend this to somebody? And do you have any closing thoughts on it?
I would recommend this. This is like I think I mentioned this when I talked about the movie those couple years ago when I was just doing a little write up on it. This is a full moon movie that's not just a great movie for full moon fans, but it's a great early 90s, you know, sci-fi action flick. Like, this doesn't need to be a movie that just full moon fans can enjoy. To me, it's not as good, but this to me is right up there with stuff like RoboCop or, you know, Terminator. Like, this is just a fun sci-fi action movie. It's got some good gore kills. The plot line it's good. And it's got some twisty twists that I didn't see coming. It's a solid time, and I think it deserves more respect than what it's given. Like, it's largely been forgotten about. And like, even Charlie Band doesn't seem too big to ever really bring it up. Like I said, I read his memoir. He barely mentioned it. Like, this is something he should be more proud of. And it's just unfortunate that it seems to get blindsided by his other works.
I think this is one of those movies that you would expect would, like, once you see it, especially as an adult, you're like, damn, this should be right there with like Castle Freak, as far as being like those movies that people outside of Full Moon know and sort of revere, but aren't even Full Moon fans, you know? Like Castle Freak, there's a lot of people that love that movie that don't give a shit about Full Moon, but Castle Freak is fucking awesome.
Even
or Stuart Gordon
Puppet
fans
Master
that
to an
don't
extent. Like there are non-full
Puppet
moon
Master
fans.
I think is widely accepted as one of those, you know, big horror franchises that everybody should know and at least be familiar with, you know. It's a big credit.
I can't count the amount of times that somebody told me they liked the Puppet Master movie, and I said, oh good, you know, there's like 11 sequels. And that's not counting the spin-offs. And they're like, what?
Yeah. But the best thing to do is just not tell them that some of them suck so bad and just let them find out on their own. You know,
I like to tell
so
them
that they can enjoy the shock and awe when you're like,
get on, it'll go up again. I don't tell them when it drops in quality. I just tell them you're gonna have to watch them all and decide for yourself.
See, I'd rather wait around until they come back to me once they hit that point and they're like, yo, what the fuck? And I'm like, don't worry, they get better in a couple.
Watch the Axis trilogy.
I want them to have that thought for a moment like that. I steered them wrong. But see, that's the thing with Puppet Master is there's like 6 movies that are awesome. So no one can really accuse you of steering them wrong. It's just eventually they start sucking for a minute. Sorry, dude.
Yeah, let's face it, most franchises have a dip here and there.
Yeah. Do you think those are bad? Watch Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys and get back to us. But yeah, they get better with part 10.
They get better with part 10. I can't think of, that's my favorite. That's about, like, just final record, like, you watch it. As a Full Moon fan or a non-Full Moon fan, you deserve to watch Crash and Burn, because there's no way, if you like that decade and genre, you're going to find stuff to like in Crash and Burn.
Oh, for sure. And I would just pretty much echo the same sentiment. I mean, we've already made comparisons of what, you know, the movie's basically a combination of. I think anybody just looking at it can kind of see that there might be a little bit of that going on. So, I don't know, just watch the trailer. You already saw it at the beginning of this, but if you tuned in late, check it out again. And just dive into it, man. I mean, I would say that, you know, this might even be one of those movies that I would recommend to people to like watch with their kids, even because it's got some gore, but it's one of the few full moon movies that doesn't really have a lot of swearing or like nudity in it either.
Nope.
So, not that
I watched
full
it when
moon's
I
ever
was
been known
like
for
8.
a ton
I'm
of
fine.
nudity, but yeah, there's not there's some violence in it, but other than that, there's not a lot of adult content, you know. So
No, if your kids can watch
pretty safe
RoboCop, they
fun
can
for the
watch
whole
Crash and
thing.
Burn.
1000%. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. So I think that about does it, man. I don't know. You feel like we did this justice?
I think so. Getting eaten alive by mosquitoes.
So what about you guys in the comments there? You guys seem to be enjoying this, unless it's just porn bots left in there or something. Is there, any full moon movies that you've watched recently you'd like to talk about in the future, or any of those ones on that list that caught your eye you might want to get involved in?
Like I mentioned before, if you're ever doing Shadow Zone, give me a shout. Wouldn't mind talking about it. That because you had mentioned Crash and Burn was kind of one for you. You realized you hadn't seen. You'd only seen snippets of it. And
Right.
For me, that's Shadow Zone. I swore I had watched it as a kid, but I just watched it last month or so after I started getting the full moon streaming
Thanks,
service.
Tyler.
And I realized,
Love you too, buddy.
I realized I had never seen it before. I mean, I loved it.
Shadow
But
Zone's a
it was
fun one,
just,
dude.
It was funny that you described Crash and Burn like that, because that 110, that is exactly what happened to me with Shadow Zone.
Nurse Ratchet from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is up there in Shadow Zone.
And what's his name from Return of the Living Dead and Friday 13th Part 5? And Carnosaur
the
2.
enchiladas, dude.
Enchiladas, dude.
Those damn enchiladas.
But yeah, that's the only one I could think of that I recommend.
Miguel Nunes. That's his name.
That's it.
Miguel Nunes.
Yeah.
Didn't realize Castle Freak was full moon. What other Stuart Gordon movies are full moon? Well, he did Dolls. He did Robot Jocks. So Dolls, Robot Jocks, Castle Freak.
Reanimator 2,
He
I
also
believe.
did Pit and the Pendulum. Reanimator was an Empire film, so yes, also technically full moon. And then he also did
Pendulum.
Pit and the
You know what? I
Pendulum.
wouldn't mind talking about that one sometime.
Love it. Poster's like right over here. But one of my favorite full
Lance
moon
Henriksen's
films.
solid in that.
Oh, absolutely unhinged fucking psycho level Lance Henriksen, and Pit and the Pendulum is one of my favorite fucking things ever. And the movie is so funny at the same time as being so fucked up.
It's just so bizarre.
Yeah, it's got like a weird Three Stooges style humor to it at moments in between all the weird exploitation witch trial shit. And it's like, all right, I'm into it, but I couldn't explain this to a person.
Pinches her ass cheeks. She's a witch. She's got a blemish. Like, where? Right there.
Tyler, what's a full moon movie you'd like to see us cover? I think we've got some cool stuff scheduled coming up, and I've got some cool reviews that we're going to be doing as well. So while Tyler's typing his answer, because I'm sure he's there, he knows, we'll cover it if we haven't already. There's a good chance with the spread of full moon movies that I laid out in like that first year, that
you got a good list.
Half the time, I could probably just send you the review of it, and then you'll be ready for us to do the discussion eventually. Because I covered a good wide range of like old school favorites, and then ones that people don't fuck with as much or whatever. And I hope to keep that going. I mean, that's the risk you run though when you start falling into covering the franchises, and that's why I've always been hesitant to start that, is because then you're just reviewing like 12 Puppet Master movies in a row. So half the people that don't really care about Puppet Master are like stuck there with you doing that forever. So I don't know. I'm not sure how I want to handle that. I might do it as double feature reviews where I cover 2 Puppet Master movies at once. just to make
I was
it
gonna say
less.
the best thing to do as far as like a franchise goes, maybe get a couple of guys together and just do the whole franchise, knock them off like round robin style.
That's really the best way to do it, is to just do it.
Could you imagine trying to do a full discussion about retro or Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys? It would literally just be an hour of two people screaming on their mics.
It would suck ass. I mean, if we did it that way too, it would also open it up for if like people wanted to come in later and do like a full discussion for an individual movie. I'd still be down to do that, because there's a lot of them that are worth doing that for. But yeah, I think that's the best way to really do it, is sticking with that original idea. So we'll see how it goes. Do you have anything you want to plug before we get out of here, Ryan?
I literally don't do anything. I lounge about on various horror movie boards and just shoot the shit with people. I attempted to start a podcast. Maybe someday it'll get out there. I've got several episodes saved up, but I don't know how to edit audio, man. So as of right now, nothing to plug.
Oh, I think you're going to be doing like some Amityville hangout shit though here in the future, yeah?
Oh yeah, I do those. But again, that's just me hanging out with people. I don't really think to plug them. But yeah, if anybody does check out the Amityville hangout and they want to see me, this upcoming Saturday, I'm probably going to get drunk and talk about how much I love Halloween 6. So I got that.
Not sure I agree with that.
Like I said, like I said, if you hang out on the Scream Until You Like It or the Dead and Lovely boards, stuff like that, you'll probably see me pop up every now and again. I like to crack a few brews and watch a bad movie and just kind of mention things I noticed about it. And most people seem to think those are kind of funny.
Yeah, Tyler knows what's up.
There you go.
I guess I respect it.
Paul Rudd.
I don't like Halloween 6. I used to like it when I was a kid, but the more I've watched it over the years, I like it less. But it has Paul Rudd in it, right? And he likes
there's one scene in
so by extension, I'm cool.
The theatrical cut where Paul Rudd is trying to break into a door and he's using a fire extinguisher to break in, and he sees Michael Myers coming down the hall. The fucking look that Paul Rudd gives in that scene, just kind of tilts his head to the side, gives a goofy little smile. Every time I see it, I lose my shit. And that's why I'm like, do I really like this movie that much? Every time he does that, gives a little head tilt and just like gives a goofy smile. I'm like, that's it. That's why I like this movie.
See,
God, I love Halloween 6.
Well, we'll get into it after we get off the broadcast here. But I would love to do a whole Halloween stream with you guys, but we're definitely going to talk about it afterwards for a minute, because I'm having a weird thing happen with Halloween lately. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll reappraise Halloween 6 here. I've never been a fan of it, but I do like it. So.
It isn't the greatest, but I have a soft spot for it.
To be fair, none of them are. The first two and then 3 are, I think, is the bulk of the greatness went out on those. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. This was our review for Crash and Burn. We're going to be coming back at you here with another one in the very near future. I think my next one's probably going to be Seed People with my buddy Jason. So we'll see you back with that one. Me and Ryan are going to get the fuck out of here, probably crack a beer and just talk for a moment and call it a night. But hopefully you enjoyed this. If you've not seen Crash and Burn, well, we've spoiled most of the movie for you, but we did keep that ending intact. So get out there, check that out. Jester Mikey enjoyed this. That's the only stamp of approval we need. So, as always, I have been Moseley. You've been a bunch of sexy beasts, and this has been yet another episode of the Full Moon Live, baby. He's looking forward to Seed People, as am I. Got that Denim Daddy up in there, man. It's one of those songs that just makes you want to listen to that John Cougar Mellencamp shit. Or one of those movies, right? Like the dude just comes into town all in denim and like button-up shirts. there's like a sweet milk
Canadian
that's
tuxedo.
involved. I think she wants to make him some pancakes, you know. It's like everything that
French
your
toast here.
dad's radio told you about, you know. What?
Oh, you froze up on me.
I did. Godspeed. We'll see you back here next
All
week.
right.